So now I have the head back from the shop. You can see it's been resurfaced. Now the cam can get slid back in, but you just want to put some oil on all these little areas where the cam is going to slide into, so that when the engine starts up it's not dry. You can just grab the cam and slide it back in. I had put a Sharpie mark on the cam and on the head as to how the cam was positioned before I took it off. So I just lined that back up. Now the rocker arms for the rocker assemblies can go back on. The intake side goes on first. And just hand thread the bolts in for now. Then you can put the exhaust side on there. Just make sure everything's lined up. You gotta make sure these are seated all the way in their holders before tightening the bolts. And tightening these for now. Just making sure everything is seated properly. And then these get torqued to 21 foot-pounds. I'm not sure if there's some kind of special pattern, but I did not find anything about that. So I'm just gonna go down the line. Never buy an Am-Pro torque wrench. Total piece of garbage. Now the cam position sensor, or whatever this gets torqued to like 2.5 or 8 foot-pounds. So I don't have a torque wrench that goes that low, so I'm just gonna hand tighten them. And if it leaks oil, I'll just tighten it a little more. If you get a gasket kit, it'll come with a new O-ring for this, as well as gaskets for everything that attaches to this head. And once those are on, you can put the exhaust manifold back on. Make sure you use a new gasket. You don't want to kill anybody with exhaust fumes. These bolts get torqued to 16 foot-pounds. I don't have a torque wrench that goes that low, so I'm going to 20. Put the heat shields back on and put the temperature sensor, coolant temp sensor, back in. I'm using Teflon tape. If you have a better material to use, you are free to do so. And then put the EGR diaphragm back on. And torque these bolts to 16.7 foot-pounds. Again, I'm going to 20. And now the head is pretty much ready to go back on. Just need to lay the new head gasket down. And when you're buying things like head gaskets, you want to use a brand name. Don't even waste your time with the generic stuff. So just set that down in there. Next thing is you want new head bolts because they're stretch bolts. Apparently you can use them twice on this particular model, but I just got new ones because I'm not even going to waste my time in case the old ones don't work out. Another thing that you want to buy, brand name. I'll post links in the description to where you can buy all these things. The bolts come with instructions. Make sure you follow those. The outer 4 bolts are the short bolts for the head bolts. The inner 6 bolts are the long ones. They must get torqued in this sequence. Just pause the video, save that image. And on top of that, the inner 6 bolts need to be torqued in 4 steps. First, 25 foot-pounds, then 50 foot-pounds, then 50 foot-pounds plus a 90-degree turn. And then the outer 4 bolts also get torqued in 4 steps, which is 25 foot-pounds, then 35 foot-pounds, then 35 foot-pounds plus 90-degree turn. The single overhead cam 2.0 Dodge engine. Now we're doing the 50 on the inner bolts. Now we're doing the 35 on the outer 4 bolts. Still following the same torque pattern. Now we're going to double check the 50. Then we're going to double check the 35. Now we're going to add a 90-degree turn to each bolt, following the proper pattern there. Okay, making sure this clears the okay, so basically 90-degree turn. Start here and here on each bolt. Now that should do it for the torquing of the head bolts. Now the plastic cover can go back on. Just reverse what you did to take it off, put those 10mm bolts back in, and then we can do the important stuff. Then the belt tensioner can be reattached. Torque these bolts to 30 foot-pounds. You should replace this tensioner pulley. Now put the cam sprocket back on. It has a notch in there that lines up with the notch on the end of the cam where it sticks onto. And then torque this bolt to 85 foot-pounds. Use your old timing belt and a clamp to hold that pulley still while you torque it. Now you can fit on the new timing belt. That's another thing you want to buy, a brand name, Gates, Continental, Napa, and there's a few others, I can't think of them right now. Just kind of get it on the edge there. You can work with it a little easier to get it around this tensioner. This is how it should go on. Around the outside of the water pump, around the inside of the tensioner, on the outside of the cam sprocket, and around the outside of the crank sprocket. And this tensioner will go and tighten it. Before you reinstall the tensioner, put it in a clamp or a vise. A vise will be a lot easier. And clamp it such that these two holes line up. And when they do, put a pin in there. Then install the tensioner. Now the way to set this tension is that you take a torque wrench, set it to 20 foot-pounds, and put it on that tensioner pulley, and tension it to the 20 foot-pounds, and push this up, and tighten it down while this is tensioned. And then torque these bolts to 23 foot-pounds. And the pre-tension will be correct when this pin can be removed and installed. Yeah, I'll say that's good because you're not supposed to loosen this bolt here, but I did, so I'm just going to retorque it to 35 or 40 foot-pounds, and that should be fine. Now double check the timing marks. Those are still fine. And the marks on the crank are still good. Then you rotate the engine over twice to make sure that nothing's hitting inside and that the timing marks are still in the right spots. Top one's still good. Bottom one lines up too. Belt feels good, nothing was hitting there. Now we can put it all back together. Everything else is pretty straightforward, just reverse what you did from taking it apart. And I'll post links to some of the torque specifications in the description, as well as links to where you can buy like the timing belt and all the important stuff. So I got my chain set up again to hold the harmonic balancer steady while I torque it to 105 foot-pounds. And the way I got this harmonic balancer back on was I found a longer bolt with the same threads as the original bolt, and I just tapped the harmonic balancer on there as far as I could, and then used this bolt to drive it in the rest of the way, and then installed the original bolt, because this kit does not have an adapter that's long enough to press this back on. I will put a link or something in the description where you can get a bolt like this, or I'll figure out a way to show you where to get one and what kind of bolt it is. To get the serpentine belt back on, loop it around the ribbed pulleys first, the alternator, the compressor, and the harmonic balancer, and then slide it over the idler pulley, and then use the alternator to tension the belt. Then reinstall the tensioner bolt and tension the belt. Before you start this up, you can just pour a little oil on top of the valve assemblies. Almost dropped that. just so there's something there, so the thing doesn't start dry. It's been all taken apart and wiped down and everything. Reinstall this pulley and torque the bolt to 30 foot-pounds. Tension the belt by keeping this nut loose and this bolt loose, and turning this. That should be good right there. You want some deflection, maybe a centimeter or so. And to tension the power steering belt pulley, just use a pry bar. Get in there, tension it, and then tighten the 3 bolts that you loosened. Well, here's the moment of truth. Here's the moment of truth. It's all put back together, and I put some coolant in, and keep in mind it's gonna smoke a little bit because of grease and oils and whatnot that get onto the exhaust manifold during handling. That stuff burns off. That's just how it is. It's nothing to worry about. Let's see if it starts, and hopefully it doesn't blow up. Please subscribe for more videos like this, and if you liked the video, hit the like button, and thank you for watching.